Mr. Vijay Mantha, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I'm really honored that you're here. People need to know that Vijay and I have a long history. He is probably one of the oldest people that I know that's ever been on the podcast. We went to high school together and we were in a circle of friends. At that time, we were all fellow nerds. We would talk about history and politics and socioeconomics and all these nerdy things. And Vijay has had a really amazing journey in the last, oh my goodness, almost 2 decades. And I just thought it was really important that he came on the podcast and shared his experience and knowledge. And so I'm just honored that you're here, and I appreciate you sharing your journey, brother.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to see you. I'm not sure I'm the oldest friend, but you've known me for a while.
I've known you for a while.
Same age as you.
It's been a long time. So why don't you start a little bit about, I want to talk about specifically what you've learned around relationships, because I really feel like your perspective about people and relationships and how you spend time and how you think about who you have in your life and how that brings value to you in your life is really a refreshing perspective. And you've gone through some things that has led you to that perspective. And one of the things we love to talk about here is relationships and how we can show up better in our lives and, say yes to relationships and learn how to say no to relationships and all those things. And before we started recording, or before we decided to do this podcast, I felt like, Vijay really does have a fresh perspective about this. And so I'm really excited for us to dig into this, and we'll go over wherever we want to go. But why don't you give us a little bit of background and give us your perspective?
Yeah, so relationships, I believe as a social creature, I believe relationships are probably the most important way to create a path for happiness. And what is that path to me? It's really what's the core happiness. What's that goal? What does it look like? And so for me, it's happiness at home. I just had a baby. His name is Arjun. He's super cute. And I have a wife, she's been a rock. And so how do I maintain that relationship? And it's really who I hang out with. And so I start from there, and then I spread out. It's not like this, like a triangle. It's really the tip of the triangle going. And so, or an upside down triangle.
Upside down triangle.
And, yeah.
For those who can't see his arm gestures.
And so in reality, it's how do I maintain happiness at home? So anybody or anything I do, even if it doesn't involve her or my family, does this benefit my home? Does this relationship? And it's not just people. It's a relationship to hobbies. It's a relationship to needs and wants. I consider anything that you have an attachment to a relationship. It garners interaction with people. It garners, in my opinion, happiness to you. But does it help happiness out? So everything I do, whether it's a new friend, an old friend, an old hobby, an old activity, a new one, I basically make a fundamental decision to say no or yes. And the ability to say no or yes is a very difficult experience. Being a yes man is what will help you lose happiness. Not help you facilitate a loss of happiness, because you can't really find joy in things you are uncertain will bring joy. Probability of doing that is very low. So my point is, with the relationship, after determining will this bring happiness at home, so bottom an upside down triangle, let's say it's yes. What you want to do is facilitate those meetings. You don't wait for a person. Don't wait for a hobby. If it brings happiness at home, schedule it out in advance, a couple months in advance, because as time goes on, time becomes shorter. It'll come up and you start getting excited for those moments. Now, the relationship and the social being of life, right? You can go to bars every weekend. You forget that experience at the bar. But if you have, a planned event, you actually remember every aspect of that social interaction. I have not forgotten one event or thing at my house or activity with my wife. I remember every aspect to it. It is its own special relationship. And it brings me happiness because I chose to hang out with those people. I had my wife say, it's all good. I think this makes you happy. Go race, But I have to make compromise. I like racing, by the way, but I had to make a compromise. I can't do it every month because it takes 5 days to recover or plan and then go, right?
Right.
And so what I do is I, make sure out of my own decision, what is right for her happiness based on my experience of being with her. That's a relationship right there. And now that relationship goes vice versa, where she knows this makes me happy, racing. And with, everything with the limit makes a situation of compromise both beneficial. And I think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And I think like you're sort of you found that clarity, right? And I think that even for me, what's interesting about you, and you can touch on this, is like, you're a very social, you have a social energy about you, and you are naturally inclined to build relationships and quick to connect, but yet you have this perspective of being very refined in the attention and intention of your relationships. And even for me, like, I don't know if I'm like that, because I have my relationships, but I'm also, I just realized I said that 3 times. I also am like curious and searching, and I'm not sure if that serves me necessarily in a way that fulfills a level of happiness because of the lack of boundaries. So I think that's really fascinating. And is there something that you learned over time that was like not serving you to have relationships that were not so focused, perhaps, or not so intentional?
That's a really good question. So yes, I'm incredibly social. You know this.
You are, yeah. You're always smiling, and people who can't see you, you're just a generally bubbly guy. I don't see you down often.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: this bubbliness is more real than in the past, right?
Yeah, more genuine, right?
I'll give you an analogy. So I'm drinking this drink. It tastes really good in the beginning, right? Now it's pretty diluted. It's been sitting around. It's gotten, ice has made it, whatever. It lost its carbonation. It lost its punch. Being social can be incredibly adverse. And this, I'm going to speak for myself, can be incredibly adverse to having a high impact social life. So what I was telling you about relationships and everything, that's easy to say. Now you got to take some action. Things that dilute your relationships, your social experience, remembering events, are things like, how often do people I don't give a shit about contact me? What are the mediums of that? So, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger,
text,
stick to SMS. Straight up. You'll find out the people who ask you, how are you doing, instead of what are you doing, the most impactful. You'll find out that in Instagram, you have a bunch of basic people. I don't even remember who I used to talk to. And I talk to them. They could hit me up on my phone. They haven't. So I go on my phone and I filter who hasn't contacted me other than family in 6 months. Delete it. Do I feel anything? No. What has it done? Concentrated my contacts.
Concentrated. Well, not only your contacts, but your energy, your social energy
that I would input in that person. So what that dilution did, the people I cared to keep in contact with had a diluted experience. It was given to the people I don't have a vested interest. So now I took out the ice, the cold experiences, and I kept the carbonation. Carbonation here and that punch is taking the dilution, throwing it out of the window, and giving them that concentrated experience. So, what has happened when I deleted Instagram after 21 years of usage? What happened when I deleted Facebook? Well, answer has been just said. I have stopped that contact. Now with the SMS thing, which is permissible, or WhatsApp or Discord, those are productive, right? I have a trading group. I have my close friends trading group as well as family group in WhatsApp, and I have my contacts that are sectioned off as business and personal. If I look on my contact list, I can name 15 people who have consistently contacted me, less family. What do I do with them? I schedule once a month for them to come over, play with my kids. I have a bounce house in the back, and I have more fun doing that than anything. I haven't left my house in 4 days. I've been gardening, but I don't really even drive my radar right now. I'm happy as hell.
Right you are happy.
Oh, dude, I'm not even complaining. I'm not trying to escape and say, hey, babe, I'm going to go buy a pack of smokes from 7-Eleven and disappear for 4 days. You know, like this is that. If that answered your question, right?
Let's get into the work you're doing. Yeah, no, 100%. It does. And I think, like, again, it's a very fresh perspective about relationships. People, especially in this day and age with social media and technology and how easy it is to communicate, I think people are, frankly speaking, they're probably afraid of narrowing the focus that much. And we can talk about that a lot more, about whether there's, fear and anxiety that shows up with that. And you've probably worked through that now to not have that sort of regret, like you said, like I delete and I don't feel anything. But I think that people listening to you talk are probably like, that guy's crazy. How the hell? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cut everybody out of my life for 50, unless they've called me in 6 months. But, I used to have a rule that a real friend, if I'm calling a friend 3 times and they don't call me back after the 3rd time, they're probably not my friend. And I think what you're talking about is the sort of reciprocity that people expect in relationships. It just doesn't exist. And it's cold, it's superficial. And so by creating that focus.
I'm going to stop you there. I don't think that's healthy, right? What your expectations of friendship doesn't really determine if it's a great friendship. You're putting a situation, what that does is putting what your selfish situation, I'm going to call it selfish, I'm going to be blunt. It's your selfish ideal of what a good friend is. It takes 2 to tango. You don't understand really the circumstance that has caused that inability to answer the phone. I have missed 5 phone calls from people who I give a crap about, and I haven't responded to them because I'm slammed, right? I am slammed, but I will eventually send them a text, call them specifically, talk to them, and not give any excuse why I didn't call them back.
Right.
The thing is, it's an expectation of, is this a true friendship? Well, there should be also forgiveness and understanding, and also malleability, right?
Yeah,
so if I'm on this here and you call me an old friend, what I do expect is, you not to judge me if I don't, call you back when you said, hey, give me a call after watching Batman. Well, the thing is, after Batman, I did mention to Anita, you should have, she was like, you didn't call Ashish back. Don't worry about it. I'll text him, and then I'm out, burping my kid. So the thing is,
wiping diapers.
This interaction should be enough if you do choose to be with me, right, as a friend. This interaction should be enough where I'm in your mind. You think of me when you have some people that get together at your house. Hey, I'm going to invite Vijay. Give me a month's advance. I'll be there with my kid. See what I'm saying? The next get together, I'm hitting you up. Bring your family.
Yeah.
See, I already have it written down on a piece of paper. I'm not even joking. It's right here.
Well, what? Again, I love your perspective about your intention about relationships, and I think that's what I'm learning, and what I really want to get for the audience today is like how much intention you put about connection to people.
Yeah, the intention is, remember, I may sound crazy or whatever. It's because, see, the thing is, I don't know if I can do that, is what you said, right? Yeah, 21 years, I didn't do that. What made me snap into it? Well, I found what makes me happy. Consistency. So if you start at what makes you happy, which is, I want to be a pro something, I want to be a pro pool player, or I want to get really good at racing, or I just need more hobbies, and you don't have a relationship, well, does it make you better? Does this relationship take away from something? Am I getting so hammered that I'm hungover when I actually have time to go do that? I'm Ashish, I do triathlons. If I am doing something that takes away from my training, let's just put that on pause. Everything will start trickling into happiness. If you're having a lot of weird conversations or commenting on some political post and you're pissed as hell, does that make you happy at home?
That's right.
Or help hobbies? So I mean, hey.
So let's talk about your work, because this is the second thing that we could talk about a lot of things, but these are two big nuggets that I really wanted to dig in with you today. Was, and you can give a little bit of background about how you got here, but you talk about handling adversity through perspective. Tell us what that means. Tell us how you got there, and perhaps give us some examples.
Perspective, I find, is incredibly, I'm using a lot of aggressive adjectives. I would say it's important in being able to handle adversity. In every job, there's an escalation. In every job, you experience risk, right? And managing that risk. I'm not going to get into specifics with my job, but I will tell you I'm a customer-facing consultant for enterprise organizations. I'm full-time with Seattle Mariners and also Pacific Western Bank, right? So I'm helping them modernize. What I've experienced is when I work with their leadership, or when I attempt to grow fiscally, what I'm trying to do is, again, be happy at home. Everything I do. So when I want to make more money, why? Do I need more money? What is my current fiscal situation? Number two, my job. Am I able to say, I can only handle what I know I can handle? There's people paid a considerable amount of money to handle their roles and responsibilities. I'm going to give them accountability. I'll be accountable for my own thing. And if they miss it, I'm not going to call them out in front of a customer or a situation. I am going to have a one-on-one with them, then fire them if they consistently make the same mistakes. So perspective is, how do I handle adversity? You can have a situation as you get older, or let's start with this. As you get older, you become more stubborn. Your experiences.
Why do we become more stubborn as we get older?
So two things. Time, in my opinion, becomes shorter, creates stubbornness.
Okay.
The reason, in my eyes, right, the reason why time becomes shorter as you age is your concept of 1 minute becomes much longer than it does to somebody who's in high school. So I actually walked around. I think there was a YouTube video about this, but I actually walked around just like this dude, right? And I asked, just a few people when I say walked around, I just asked people on camera, but also in social situations. Hey, what's your concept of 1 minute? So I talked to my dad, I talked to my mom, I talked to my grandmother, really old. And I said, okay, I'm going to press the stopwatch or your phone, and you tell me when 1 minute's over. My grandmother was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. My dad was 1 minute and 15. My dad was 1 minute and 30. My brother was 1 minute and 25 seconds. He's 30. And then I did all the way down to my niece and nephew, whose nephew's 5 years old and my niece is 8. They were off by, one was under 1 minute. So he's about 5. He said 1 minute, or he said 55 seconds or so. He said it was 1 minute, and then the 8-year-old hit it on the nail, 1 minute and 0.0 something.
Fascinating. You did your own homemade study. So what does that mean? What does that mean?
So with the stubbornness aspect, as time goes on, your experiences become much more consistent of the same thing the first time you do it. So it's like, okay, work becomes much shorter. Hey, when is the 8-hour day going to end? Now, I woke up and now what time is it? It's 3:33. I had lunch and that's all I remember, right? And so the stubbornness comes from that, right? You basically are doing the same thing day in, day out. You think it works, but it's not really benefiting. Now with your career, right? I'm going to go back to that. So how are you going to handle adversity and change the script? You're getting bored. You're becoming complacent. You'll soon hit depression. You'll start getting thirsty for a promotion. The people will sense it. You should not give a shit. You shouldn't care about anything. And the best way to do that is to be noticed by not wanting to be noticed. And challenging adversity, in my perspective, is changing said perspective. Let's say you start from the top. You'll always kill it with this one customer. They will not think differently. They'll think, oh, this guy is reliable, always a great experience. And you'll have this expectation, consistent delivery. Now, let's say being a human, you have a baby like I did. I didn't even know where I was when I came back from paternity leave. I didn't know what year it was. I only knew the birthday of my son. I got back to work and I just kept staring at his pictures. I couldn't perform that well, right? So if let's say I had a customer that hired me, billable, and they said, hey, something's slipping, is everything okay? That's the worst thing you want to hear. Now, if you start from the bottom, net new, and they have had a detracting experience, a detractor, instead of a promoter, it's called Net Promoter Score, right? Some people are like, crap, this is going to suck.
They already have to deal with this negative perception.
I'm going to have to deal with it. I consider this a perfect opportunity for a partnership. See, the thing is, like me hiring a nanny, I don't really want a super experienced person. I want somebody who can rapidly learn and not make the same mistakes twice and become an exponential asset to the experience of success because I created something from ground up. That is what I want a customer to experience. This is how you get noticed. Become converting a detractor to a promoter. Now you use perspective to change that this is an opportunity. If you make a mistake, make it visible. Perspective. When you make a mistake, you want to be passive about it. You're like, all right, I won't let it happen again. I'll internalize that. I'm going to write a note.
I like that.
You don't
that makes a lot of sense.
Do that. Show them your lessons learned. Make it visible. Create an action plan. What's the issue? What was the impact? What is my mitigation plan? Have them validate it. The customer. When the customer validates it, that means they have zero way of going backwards and saying that you made a mistake, like, hey, I'm going to make this recurring comment. No, they said that this is the right path. Then I'm going to give this in a status to them. Hey, this was my lesson learned in the past. Have you seen it?
So are you saying, sorry to cut you off, but I want to go deeper into this. So what you're saying is that if, firstly, the older we get and the more programmed we end up being, it's more challenging to have a fresher perspective.
Combined with time, right? So time.
Combined with time.
Yeah, time, your perspective of what 1 minute is. As time goes on, it starts disappearing in front of you. Remember what you said about high school? It was decades ago. But now I'm here and I feel like it's been yesterday. This is time. True. So what happened? Yeah, we reinvigorated this, but we could have been much closer, right? If we acted on what we know now. So as time goes on, you become more stubborn, but what is experienced is you have become more stubborn on a daily basis and you forget the experiences and lessons learned that you could have done for continuous improvement. So just like saving every day when you're younger, you will have $1 million if you started at 18 at 36 years old.
But people don't do that.
People don't continuously compound their knowledge, if that makes sense. So here's my situation here, and I'll give you my personal life experiences. I've created a partnership with Seattle Mariners. They were about to quit, or they were about to fire my company. How I did that is I understood what their core issue was. I listened. They felt like they were being heard, but that's only a sales pitch, right? It's executing on it. I wrote it all down. Now I'm transparent to it every time, every week, multiple times I meet every week, and I ask them really quick, hey, just glance on the lessons learned, or they directly input it, what their feedback is. I will never repeat the same mistake because before the week starts, I look at my lessons learned. I add to it my mistakes. At the end, they have considered us a partner because coming from the bottom to the top shows so much more vigilance than being on the top and maintaining top. Now, when I'm on top, I will disengage from that engagement. But how will I maintain that relationship? this is applicable to any entrepreneur. How will I maintain that? How will I maintain that relationship as I grow my entrepreneurial company? I will hire more people. I will delegate this account to somebody else. Well, they will need to know those lessons learned.
Well, not only just in entrepreneurship, but you're talking about how to deal with customers, how to deal with employees, how to deal with in relationships, perhaps even your spouse and I love your framework in that, how can we keep what we learned right in front of us and potentially even share that with our customer so that we're building on something. And it's not like, oh, Vijay let me down and I'm going to go look for another vendor.
Yeah. If if the vendor is unable to show, or if the vendor is unable to be visible and appreciative and impressed by your vigilance and regaining their experience, then fire him.
Okay, so I have another question. Perspective, handling adversity through perspective. It's important to get or find the perspective, correct? Because you can have adversity, but if you're not perhaps, let me call it trained to find the perspective, okay? So I guess my question is how do you find the right question? How do you get yourself into the mindset of, even open enough to see the other side of the coin or to ask the question that's not being asked?
Take a leap, take a risk, get out of your little bubble. Delete social media.
Interrupt. Pattern interrupt.
Say goodbye to people. Understand what makes you happy. Write down what you do every time, and then write down what's the opposite.
Yeah.
And then determine if that opposite could actually work. How do you find that out? Well, there's a lot of humans that do what you do. There's LinkedIn. That's a good social platform. Go on LinkedIn and go to the person who does something similar to you and that is very successful. And, if they want to talk to you, and usually people want to talk about themselves, if they want to talk to you, then ask them, hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. I think the opposite is this. What is your perspective and how are you so successful? How do you maintain your customer base? How do you blah, blah, blah? They will give perspectives. If you are malleable to the ability to change, you'll do it. If you're too scared and chicken shit, then you deserve to be where you're at. I'm being blunt. You guys are professionals. Handle your shit. If you're doing the same thing every time, adversity is something that you're going to shy away from, just like being scared of the dark for the rest of your life as a kid. Well, one day you walked into a dark room and you're like, you know what, this is peaceful.
You know what that reminds me of? That being successful is not accidental. And I think that the way you operate and the way you live your life, you have an incredible amount of discipline and structure.
Well, the way I'm living my life, I'm still learning. I'm not an expert at it. I just started.
Yeah, but you put in steps and you put in rigor and you put in discipline to help you continue to keep learning and growing, right? It's my point is that it's not accidental.
Yeah, and fiscally, right? So I'll tell you some of my trials and tribulations. I had this reputation at work that I needed to get promoted. I was so thirsty. Yeah, I would get awesome scores, awesome CSATs with my job. But people internally were like, shit, I won't work with Vijay. It's too stressful. So I was getting great scores. My perspective internally, my internal customers weren't good with me. My external customers were great. What I did dissolve was the relationship of the people that I needed to be successful in order to have a successful engagement. Okay, so what I've done, before I get into what I've done before, understand that your customer is important, but the people executing your work are more important. I've never seen an engineer happy with their project going to shit.
Yeah.
I tell a customer the most important person on this project is my engineer, because a happy engineer means great work, and a great work makes a customer successful. I don't give a shit if they're happy. Let's just do what is their success. What their concept of happy, here's another perspective, isn't really what makes them successful. If you do what makes them happy, it's usually going to bring them into the hole because they don't even know what they're doing, hence why they hired you.
Right.
So that's a perspective. Now, going into my past, right, I had this thirsty image of wanting a promotion. Why did I want a promotion? Well, I wanted a title. Why? Because so I can get more cash in or outside the company. What was that quantified amount of cash? Well, let's say it's 50 grand increase. What's a 50 grand increase at post-tax? Well, I'm looking at whatever, like maybe, $1,000 difference, $1,200 difference a month. What are my current expenses? Oh, they've been growing a little bit. I am as poor as before. Now, what is success to me, right? Success is being happy at home. So I define success, again, being happy at home. Everything is core to the home, upside down triangle. Now, how do I become successful at home? A comfortable living style. How do I do that? I'm pleasant. How do I do that? I'm happy at work. How do I become happy at work? Not care about a promotion and perform. But how do I become happy at home is also fiscally. So what do? Figure out what I'm really good at work. Find out how those skills can transfer into cash outside. Emulate those skills in order to manipulate the market or whatever it is. If you're really good at project management, you're probably damn good at property flipping.
Right.
So here's the thing.
Similar skill sets.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to put in the work and not sleep for a little bit. But it's the end result. So it took me a year of not sleeping to figure out how to do this. I am now, my job actually only accounts for about 25% of my total income. And I just figured this out after I had gone to the, mental health situation with abusing certain, substances. During that experience at Kaiser, I realized, I'm becoming miserable because I need this promotion. So how do I absolve that? My perspective changed. I wrote down what my skill sets that I'm damn good at. And then I said, what does that translate to? Well, I'm going to be really good at reading 10Ks. What does that do? My perspective is reading 10Ks mean I can create a story from numbers. It's not just what Kegger is. What does that mean over 6 years?
Right.
P&E and all that stuff. Valuations. Well, I'm going to use that in the market. So what did I do? I read a couple books. When did I do that? When I took absence of leave for mental health. When I left there, I started with like 15 grand. And even with this recession, I'm up a considerable amount.
Yeah, no.
And what did I do? I invested in my RSUs with the company. I had my RSUs. We went public. Fine, great. Am I going to brag about it? No. What am I going to do? I already started investing in my kid's college education because it'll make me happy that he won't stress.
Right. What are you most afraid of?
You? No. No. I'm afraid my health will catch up to me. I'm already having, a few things to my health because of my decisions in the past, and my mental health deteriorating and going back to my past as an addict. So, and it bums me out. This is more of the repercussions for my decisions that I take onus of. So the best thing I can tell you is I wish is probably a bad word, but whatever. I really hoped that I reached this realization at a younger age and took my mental health as a priority. My fear is my mind.
Yeah. As we wrap up, Vijay, and I appreciate you sharing all that, what does it mean to you? And I think you've kind of answered this, but answer it again. What does it mean to live a rich life?
A rich life isn't, again, about being rich. It's about having rich experiences. Rich, in my words, are saturation. It's, like I said, concentrated joy, not diluted. Being rich in life is taking out dilution, distractions, understanding what makes you happy at home, or happy in your heart, or happy in your mind to handle adversity. You lose your wallet, who gives a shit? It's a wallet. How do you handle that? I have Chase. Call them. I screwed up. New car. What was in there? $1,000. Great. You know what else is $1,000? Half your rent. Don't worry about it. Rent passes once in a month. You're not going to eat. You're going to eat ramen noodles. I made a dumb mistake. Well, now you're going to put a chain on your wallet. That's a rich experience you can take. Always continuously improve. Lessons learned, rich experience, because you get self-satisfaction that you will never make the same mistake twice, and you're powering up like Goku. That's a rich experience. Super Saiyan 4, I don't know. Another rich experience is this right now with you, right? I haven't talked to you in a while. You're super dope, right? I won't forget you. When you hit me up, I'm down. When the next time I have a house thing, I'm going to hit you, or an event at my house, I'm going to hit you up. And your wife will probably have a rich experience with my wife because they're very similar, you know? These are the things that you have to give. For something to become rich in any aspect, you give time. Your concept of time, you can make it a rich experience if you just don't let it float away. And if you give it time and patience, so don't go, if they don't answer me in 3 calls, that's not a rich experience. That's fickle, right? I'm not calling you out, but a little bit because you're my friend. No, but here's the thing, right? You give it time, you accept it, and you just be cool with yourself and your soul. Look at your household. That is the core of my happiness. So if Ashish doesn't call in a month, all good, man. It's all fly.
It's all fly. You know, she's probably recording some podcast somewhere.
Don't worry about it, homie. You know?
Well, look, I really honor you for your journey and your growth and your progress. I know I don't need to say that to you, but you know, for you to have the perspectives you have and be so open and honest and vocal about those things is why I wanted to have you today, because I think there's a lot to learn from that. Appreciate you calling me out. And just generally I know. But generally, like going full circle, it is about being present and understanding our relationship with time. So again, brother, so good to see you. Thanks for doing this with me, and I honor you. And thanks for dropping all this heat today.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say one thing. Ashish, I'm incredibly inspired by you. Like, you're bringing so much to the community out of your own volition. I think you need to appreciate that. I'm incredibly happy to be part of this because I've learned a lot about you and your type of questions. The other thing is, being on something like this has helped me realize how far I've gone. I haven't thought of that.
Yeah, that's right. People don't think about their journey until they explain it, right? Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to write that down, recap every day what I've learned. And so here, I'm taking that from this podcast.
Well, thanks so much, man. And we'll definitely keep in touch, of course. And hopefully people can reach out to you. We'll put all your social media links or your contact information if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, you just delete it.
Social media. Send me an SMS.
Send him a text. Well, thanks again.
I look forward to talking to you in 4 months, but
yeah, I know, right? Thanks so much,
I'm just joking. All right, talk to you later, brother.